Commander Zixthor stared at the star map in front of him and tried not to yawn. The lights blinked in the same pattern they had blinked for the past 40 cycles of his career. Green dots for friendly ships, blue zones for safe trading routes, empty black space everywhere else. Another quiet day, his tactical officer Vryn said from her station. She was young, only 5 cycles out of the academy. She still found patrol duty exciting. Zixthor remembered when he felt that way too. The Caltherian Concordat Border Patrol had one job: watch the trade routes. They checked ships, looked for pirates, and made sure everyone followed the rules. It was boring work. Pirates were rare these days. The galaxy had been at peace for 300 standard years. Most problems got solved in courts, not space battles. Zixthor's ship, the Morning Light, was one of 12 vessels in the patrol fleet. They were good ships built for watching and helping, not fighting. Nobody needed warships anymore. Those days were long gone, buried in history that most people preferred to forget. "Commander?" Vryn said suddenly. Her voice changed. She sat up straighter. "I have something strange on sensors." Zixthor walked over to her station. Finally, something different. Probably just a malfunction, but at least it broke up the routine. "What is it?" "Unknown contact, near the Kepler sector." Vryn's fingers moved across her controls. "The readings don't make sense." The Kepler sector. Zixthor knew that area. Nobody went there. The whole region was filled with radiation storms and unstable stars. It was marked as unsafe on every map. "Probably just interference from the storms," he said. "No, sir. This is definitely a ship." Vryn looked up at him. Her eyes were wide. "A big one. And it's moving through the radiation like it's not even there." That got Zixthor's attention. He pulled up the sensor data on his own screen. Vryn was right. Something was definitely out there. The energy signature was wrong, though. It didn't match anything in the Concordat database. Not Caltherian, not Vrexian, not any of the known species. "Get Captain Talara on the comm," Zixthor ordered. "And move the fleet to investigate." 10 minutes later, all 12 patrol ships were heading toward the Kepler sector. Captain Talara's voice came through the speakers from her command ship. "All vessels maintain standard formation. This is probably just a lost colony ship or a science vessel. We'll offer assistance and escort them to safety." Zixthor hoped she was right, but something felt off. That energy signature bothered him. It was too strong, too hot. Concordat ships ran cool and efficient. This thing was burning like a star. As they got closer, Vryn kept updating her readings. "Sir, the vessel is huge. 3 times the size of our biggest carrier. And the heat signature. No Concordat ship could run that hot without melting its own systems." "Try hailing them," Zixthor said. "All standard frequencies." The communications officer worked his controls. "Transmitting on all 47 known languages, sir." They waited. Silence. No response. They tried again. And again. Nothing. The unknown ship just kept moving, steady and silent. Then it emerged from the radiation storm. Zixthor had seen many ships in his career. Beautiful Caltherian vessels with their smooth curves, practical Vrexian haulers, elegant diplomatic cruisers. This thing looked like none of them. It was massive and angular. Sharp edges and flat surfaces covered its hull. It looked brutal, aggressive, like it was built to hurt things, not explore or trade. Strange markings covered the sides, symbols he didn't recognize. Heat waves shimmered around it from engines that ran far too hot. "By the ancestors," someone whispered on the fleet channel. Captain Talara's voice came through, firm and professional. "Unknown vessel, this is Captain Talara of the Caltherian Concordat Border Patrol. We come in peace. Do you require assistance?" For a long moment, nothing. Then static crackled through the speakers. A voice spoke in a language the computer didn't recognize. The translator AI worked hard, searching through databases, trying to make sense of the sounds, more static. More strange words. Then finally the translator found something. The voice came through broken and choppy. "This, U.S. Indomitable, identify your intentions, UASS." Nobody knew what that meant. And the tone of the voice was wrong. Not friendly or relieved like a lost ship should sound. It was cold, careful, almost suspicious. "We are the Caltherian Concordat," Talara replied. "We patrol this region to help travelers and maintain peace." "Where are you from?" "What is your destination?" Another pause. When the voice came back, the translator was working better. "We are from Earth. We are exploring." "Who are you?" What do you want? Earth. Zixthor checked the database. No planet called Earth in any concorded records. These people were from completely outside known space. First contact with an unknown species. This was huge. We want nothing, Talara said carefully. We offer friendship and assistance. We would like to extend an invitation. Would you come with us to the nearest diplomatic station? We can exchange information and welcome you properly to this region of space. The great ship hung in space, silent. Zixthor watched it on his screens. It hadn't powered down weapons. Wait, weapons? He looked closer at the sensor readings. That ship was covered in weapons. Gun ports, missile tubes, energy weapon arrays. It was a warship. A real warship, like the ones from the old history files before the galaxy found peace. We will accept, the voice from the Indomitable finally said. We will follow to your station, but we will maintain defensive posture. Do not approach closer than 10,000 kilometers, Captain Talara agreed quickly. Defensive posture seemed wise when dealing with an unknown, heavily armed vessel. Understood. Please follow our navigation beacon. The journey will take 6 hours, the human ship acknowledged. The fleet formed up around it, keeping the requested distance. Zixthor stared at the massive warship on his screen. Something about it made him nervous. It wasn't just the weapons or the size. It was the way it moved, precise, controlled, like a predator. Sir, Vryn said quietly, I've been analyzing their hull. Those aren't just weapons. That's armor. Heavy armor. And their shields. She shook her head. Their shields are running at power levels that should be impossible. What kind of species builds ships like this? Zixthor didn't have an answer. The galaxy had been at peace for so long. Nobody built true warships anymore. Nobody needed them. But these humans, these people from Earth, they had built this monster. Why? As they traveled toward Harmony 7 diplomatic station, Zixthor couldn't shake a strange feeling. The galaxy was about to change. These humans were different from any species they had met before. And different in his experience usually meant complicated. He just hoped Captain Talara knew what she was doing. Bringing an unknown warship to a civilian station seemed risky. But then again, what choice did they have? The humans had agreed to come peacefully. Refusing them would be hostile. The trip passed slowly. The human ship followed exactly, never deviating from the course. Professional, disciplined, almost military. That word bothered Zixthor. Military. Nobody used that word anymore. Not in polite conversation. Approaching Harmony 7, the navigator announced. Station is on visual. Zixthor looked at the peaceful diplomatic station ahead. Then he looked at the human warship behind them. Two very different things about to meet. He had a bad feeling about what would happen next, but it was too late to turn back now. Harmony 7 station hung in space like a crystal sculpture. Its transparent domes and flowing architecture represented everything the Concordat believed in. Openness, peace, and cooperation. Ambassador Dalseth stood in the main observation deck, watching the human warship approach. The contrast was striking. His station looked like art. Their ship looked like a weapon. The Indomitable docked with a heavy clang that shook the station walls. Dalseth winced. These humans didn't do anything gently. Around him, representatives from all 3 major Concordat species gathered to witness first contact. Caltharanes with their scaled skin, Phyrexians with their 4 arms, his own people, the Selkari, with their flowing tentacles, all of them curious, all of them peaceful. The airlock opened. What emerged made everyone step back. The humans wore armor, not environmental suits, which would be normal. Armor. Hard plates covered their bodies. Helmets hid their faces. They moved with purpose, their hands near weapons on their belts. Dalseth felt his heart beat faster. In 300 years of peace, nobody came to diplomatic meetings dressed for war. The lead human removed her helmet. Ambassador Dalseth got his first look at a human face. 2 eyes, not 3 or 4. Flat features. Hair on top of the head. Skin without scales or patterns. They looked fragile. Soft. Almost primitive compared to the hardened species of the Concordat. But the eyes. Those eyes didn't look soft. They looked sharp, alert. Ready? I am Captain Sarah Chen of the United Earth Space Service, the human said. Her voice was clear and strong. This is Commander Park and Dr. Williams. We represent humanity in this first contact. Dalseth extended a tentacle in the traditional Concordat greeting of peace. The human hesitated, then reached out and grasped it with her hand. Her grip was firm, too firm. Welcome to Harmony 7, Captain Chen. I am Ambassador Dalseth. Please let us move to more comfortable surroundings. We have prepared a proper reception. The humans followed, but they didn't relax. Their eyes constantly moved, scanning everything. Their hands stayed near their weapons. Dalseth tried to understand. Were humans always this tense? Or did they not trust the Concordat? In the grand reception hall, Dalseth had arranged a formal welcome dinner. Foods from a dozen worlds filled the tables. Soft music played. Representatives from many species waited to meet these newcomers. It was how first contact always worked. Peaceful, civilized, friendly. The humans entered and immediately spread out. Captain Chen moved to one side. Commander Park took the other. Dr. Williams stayed in the middle. They were creating defensive positions. At a dinner party. Please sit, Dalseth said, gesturing to cushions arranged around the low tables. We have much to discuss. Tell us about Earth. Where is your homeworld? How long have you been traveling in space? Captain Chen remained standing. Before we discuss details, we need to understand the political situation in this region. What governments exist here? What are the military capabilities? Are there any active conflicts? The room went quiet. Military capabilities? Active conflicts? These were not normal first contact questions. Captain Chen, Dalseth said carefully. The Concordat has been at peace for 300 standard years. We have no conflicts. Military matters are handled by small peacekeeping forces. We settle disagreements through diplomacy and law. The human's expression didn't change. 300 years is a long time, impressive, but peace doesn't last forever. What defenses do you have against external threats? A Vrexian council member spoke up, her translator making her words sound amused. External threats? There are none. The galaxy is at peace. You seem very concerned with warfare, Captain Chen. Is humanity at war with someone? Not currently, Chen replied. But we prepare for possibilities. Hope for peace, prepare for war. It's kept us alive. This confused everyone. Prepare for war during peacetime? It seemed wasteful. Paranoid. One of the Caltherian representatives asked what everyone was thinking. How long has humanity been united? How long have you had interstellar travel? We unified 80 years ago, Chen said. We've been in space for 60 years. This is our first contact with other intelligent species. Dalseth felt his heart sink. 80 years. Humanity was very young. They would learn. They would see how the civilized galaxy worked. 60 years in space, and you've built ships like the Indomitable? Remarkable. Though I must ask, why build such a heavily armed vessel? Exploration ships don't usually need that many weapons. Where we come from, any ship leaving protected space needs to defend itself, Chen replied. The universe is dangerous. We didn't know what we'd find out here. But you found us, Dalseth said warmly, and we are peaceful. Perhaps now you can relax? Harmony 7 is one of the safest places in the galaxy. We are protected by Concordat law. No one would dare attack a diplomatic station. The human captain glanced at her officers. Something passed between them. Commander Park spoke for the first time. Ambassador, we appreciate the welcome. But in human history, we've learned that peace is fragile. We mean no offense. This is just how we operate. The dinner proceeded awkwardly. The humans ate their food with their mouths, chewing in a way the Concordat species found primitive. Most civilized species absorb nutrients through skin contact or injection. Watching humans bite and chew was unsettling. Worse was their conversation. They talked about weapons. Like other species talked about art, they discussed something called tactics and strategy. They mentioned battles, from their history with casualness that disturbed everyone. Listening, Commander Zixthor, assigned as the human liaison, sat with Captain Chen. He had to know more. Captain, you mentioned humanity unified 80 years ago. What came before that? Chen looked at him. War, lots of war. Humans spent most of our history fighting each other, nation against nation, tribe against tribe. We nearly destroyed ourselves several times. Zixthor felt sick. You fought your own species? Constantly. We had something called World War III just before unification. It killed 2 billion people. Chen said this like she was discussing the weather. After that, we decided fighting each other was stupid. We unified under one government and focused on reaching space. 2 billion dead. Zixthor couldn't process that number. The worst disaster in Concordat history killed 10,000. These humans had experienced death on a scale that seemed impossible. How did your species survive? He asked quietly. We learned, Chen said simply. We learned how to wage war efficiently. And then we learned when to stop waging it. Both lessons were necessary. The dinner ended early. The humans made everyone uncomfortable with their weapons and their paranoia, and their stories of endless warfare. Ambassador Dalseth offered them quarters on the station. Chen declined. They would sleep on their ship. More paranoia. As the humans left, Dalseth spoke with Captain Talara. "What do you think?" he asked. "I think they are very young and very scared," Talara said. "They'll learn. Give them time. They'll see how the galaxy works, how peaceful we are. They'll put away their weapons and join us properly." But Zixthor, who had listened to Chen's stories, wasn't sure. Humans didn't seem like a species that would put away their weapons. They seemed like a species that understood something the Concordat had forgotten. That peace only existed because no one had tested it in a long time. He looked out at the indomitable, dark and dangerous against the stars. Then an alert sounded through the station. Emergency signals. Something was entering the sector. Multiple ships. Unknown configuration. Coming in fast. On the sensors, 20 new contacts appeared. Big ones, and they were not friendly. The Kryloth had arrived. The alarms screamed through Harmony 7 station. Red lights flashed in every corridor. People ran in panic, not knowing where to go or what to do. The Concordat hadn't practiced for emergencies like this. Why would they? Nothing bad had happened in 300 years. Ambassador Dalseth stood frozen in the command center, staring at the sensor displays. 20 ships. 20 massive warships surrounding the station. They didn't look like Concordat vessels. They looked organic, like they had been grown instead of built. Dark and twisted, covered in strange protrusions that might be weapons or might be something worse. "What are they?" someone asked. An old Caltharian security officer answered, his voice shaking. "Kryloth. By the ancestors, it's the Kryloth." The name meant nothing to most people. It had been 400 years since anyone saw a Kryloth ship. They were ancient history. A nightmare from the past, a species that refused to join the Concordat, that viewed peace as weakness. They had disappeared into unknown space centuries ago. Everyone assumed they were gone. They were not gone. "Hail them," Dalseth ordered. His tentacles trembled. "Open communications. Offer negotiation." The communications officer tried. Nothing. The Kryloth ships just hung there, blocking all escape routes, silent, waiting, on the morning light. Commander Zixthor watched his sensor screen with growing dread. His patrol fleet of 12 ships looked tiny compared to the Kryloth vessels. His weapon systems were designed for stopping pirates and dealing with accidents. He had never fired them at another military ship. None of them had. Captain Talara's voice came through the fleet channel. She sounded calm, but Zixthor could hear the fear underneath. "All ships form defensive perimeter around Harmony 7. Power weapons to stand by. Prepare for possible combat." Combat. The word felt foreign. Wrong. Zixthor had trained for this in the academy 20 years ago. Theory and simulations. He'd never thought he would actually need it. "Kryloth vessels, this is Captain Talara of the Caltharian Concordat. This station is under Concordat protection. You are in violation of interstellar law. Leave immediately or face consequences." The Kryloth response came not in words but in action. One of their ships fired a weapon. A green beam of energy cut through space and struck a small courier ship trying to flee the system. The ship exploded instantly. 300 civilians died in seconds. The command center on Harmony 7 went silent. Then someone screamed. Others started crying. Dalseth felt his entire body go numb. They just killed people. Just like that. "No warning. No negotiation. Just death. All ships, open fire," Talara ordered. "Weapons free. Protect the station." The Concordat patrol fleet attacked. Their beam weapons lit up space with blues and greens. Their plasma torpedoes streaked toward Kryloth vessels. It looked impressive. It looked like they were fighting back. It didn't matter. The Kryloth shields absorbed the Concordat weapons easily. Then they returned fire. Their weapons were different, stronger, more focused, more deadly. A Kryloth plasma blast hit the patrol ship Sunset Dancer. Its shields failed instantly. The ship's hull tore open. Atmosphere vented into space along with crew members. The ship went dark and dead. "Sunset Dancer is gone," someone screamed on the fleet channel. "They're dead. They're all dead." Zixthor felt sweat run down his scales. His ship's shields were failing under Kryloth fire. His weapons barely scratched their hulls. This wasn't a battle. It was a massacre. They had no training for this. No experience. No hope. Another patrol ship exploded. Then another. The Kryloth weren't even trying hard. They were playing with the Concordat fleet, showing how weak they were. How helpless. On Harmony 7, the station's shield started failing. The Kryloth were targeting the station itself now. Thousands of civilians huddled in shelters that wouldn't protect them. Dalseth tried to think of something, anything, but there was nothing. No military to call, no reinforcements coming. The nearest Concordat battle fleet was 3 days away, and they probably weren't much better than this patrol anyway. The Concordat had forgotten how to fight, and now they were paying the price. Sixthor's ship shook as another blast hit. Panels exploded around him. Fire broke out in 3 sections. His tactical officer Vryn was bleeding from a head wound but still at her station. "Shields at 15%, she reported. "Weapons offline. Hull breaches on decks 2 and 3. "Abandoned ship order?" his first officer asked. Sixthor looked at the escape pod controls. They could run. But where would they go? The Kryloth would hunt them down, and even if they escaped, everyone on the station would die. 3,000 people. Scientists, diplomats, traders, families. "No," Sixthor said. "We stay, we fight as long as we can." It was a brave choice. It was also pointless. His weapons were offline. His ship was dying. He was dying. And there was nothing he could do about it. On the station, Ambassador Dalseth composed a final message to the Concordat Council. He described what was happening. The attack. The slaughter. The end of 300 years of peace. He hoped someone would remember. Would learn from this. Would prepare better than they had. He hit send just as the station's main shield generator exploded. The Kryloth were preparing boarding pods. They weren't just going to destroy the station. They were going to take it. Take everyone inside. Do things to them that the old records only hinted at. Then something changed. "New contact," Vryn shouted from her ruined station. "It's the Indomitable." "The human ship is moving." Sixthor pulled up what was left of his sensors. The human warship had been sitting quiet since the attack started. He assumed they were running. Smart choice. Why would they fight for strangers? But they weren't running. The Indomitable was accelerating, straight toward the Kryloth fleet. 1 ship, 20 enemies. It was suicide. Captain Chen's voice came through all frequencies. "Concordat vessels, fall back to the station. Cover the civilians. We'll handle the Kryloth." Handle them? Was she insane? Captain Talara thought so. "Human vessel, you cannot engage that fleet alone." "Retreat, save yourselves." Chen's response was brief. "With respect, Captain, this is what we do." Indomitable out. The human warship accelerated faster, much faster than should be possible. The forces involved should crush the crew, kill them all, but the ship kept accelerating, racing toward the Kryloth fleet at speeds that made Concordat vessels look like they were standing still. Smaller ships launched from the Indomitable. Dozens of them. Tiny attack craft that flew like angry insects. Sixthor's damaged sensors could barely track them. The Kryloth, amused by this new target, turned their weapons toward the human ship. All 20 vessels focused their fire on the Indomitable. Enough firepower to destroy a small moon, enough to vaporize any Concordat ship instantly. The human shields flared bright blue. They held. Impossible. No shields could take that much punishment. Then the humans opened fire. Sixthor had seen Concordat weapons, beams and torpedoes, energy weapons that took time to charge and recharge, civilized weapons designed to disable, not destroy. Human weapons were not civilized. Solid projectiles flew from the Indomitable at speeds his sensors couldn't believe. They hit Kryloth ships like hammers from hell. Missiles swarmed out in the hundreds, each one hunting its target with machine intelligence. Laser batteries fired continuously, cutting through Kryloth armor like it wasn't there. A Kryloth heavy cruiser took a direct hit from something. The ship didn't just explode. It came apart in chunks, its core detonating like a small star. The Kryloth stopped laughing. They started dying instead, and the human ship was just getting started. Commander Sixthor had seen simulations of ancient battles, historical records from the old wars before the Concordat brought peace. He thought he understood combat. He was wrong. What the humans did wasn't combat. It was art. Terrible, beautiful, deadly art. The Indomitable didn't just fight. It danced. The massive warship twisted through space in patterns that should rip it apart. It dove between Kryloth vessels, weapons firing from every angle. Each movement was precise, calculated. Like the ship knew exactly where every enemy was and exactly how to hurt them. The human fighter craft were even worse. They moved like living things. Darting, weaving, attacking in coordinated swarms. A group of 5 fighters would hit a Kryloth ship from different angles at the same moment. Another group would disable weapon systems while a third destroyed engines. They worked together with perfect timing. How are they doing that? Bryn asked from her damaged station. The forces involved. The crew should be dead from the acceleration. Zixthor watched his sensors. She was right. The Indomitable was pulling maneuvers that generated forces no organic crew could survive. Unless, their crew must be incredibly tough, or they have technology we don't understand, or both. On the Indomitable's bridge, Captain Chen sat in her command chair, calm as ice. Screens surrounded her, showing every angle of the battle. Her crew worked at their stations with mechanical efficiency. They had done this before. Maybe not against the Kryloth specifically, but they had fought. Really fought. It showed in every action. Railgun batteries 3 and 4 target that cruiser's power core, Chen ordered. Fighter Wing Alpha, I need you on that carrier. Disable their launch bays. Wing Beta, screen our port side. They're trying to flank us. Aye, Captain. Voices responded instantly. No hesitation, no fear. Just professional warriors doing their jobs. The railguns fired. Tungsten projectiles accelerated to 3% of light speed. They hit the Kryloth cruiser exactly where Chen ordered. The ship's power core exploded, taking half the vessel with it. Debris scattered into space. A Kryloth weapon struck the Indomitable's shields. They flickered but held. The shield generators ran hot, adapting to the enemy weapons in real time. Human engineers had learned long ago that static defenses didn't work. Everything had to adapt. Everything had to evolve during battle. Shield strength at 70%, the tactical officer reported, adjusting frequency to compensate for enemy weapons. Rotate shield modulation every 15 seconds, Chen ordered. Don't let them find a pattern. The Kryloth were trying. They were good fighters with powerful ships, but they fought like species that hadn't faced real opposition in centuries. They used standard tactics, predictable approaches. They expected their size and firepower to win. Humans didn't fight that way. Humans had spent thousands of years fighting other humans. Every tactic had been tried. Every weakness had been exploited. Every mistake had been paid for in blood. Humanity's wars had been brutal teachers, and humans had learned every lesson. War Master Thraknor commanded the Kryloth flagship. He stared at his displays in growing disbelief. How was this possible? One ship, one pathetic alien ship, and his fleet was dying. 5 of his vessels were destroyed. 3 more were crippled and drifting. The rest were taking heavy damage, and that human ship barely showed signs of wear. All vessels focus fire on the enemy, Thraknor roared. Overwhelm their defenses. They cannot stand against the might of the Kryloth Empire. But they could. The human ship moved between his vessels like a knife through flesh. Its weapons never stopped firing. Never missed. His own ships were getting in each other's way, afraid to fire at full power because they might hit their own allies. The humans had no such fear. They knew exactly where everything was. They fired with confidence, their weapons striking true while their ship dodged return fire with impossible precision. A wing of human fighters attacked Thraknor's flagship. Small craft, barely larger than escape pods. He almost laughed. What could such tiny ships do? They flew straight at his vessel's main gun emplacements. Point defense systems tried to shoot them down, missed. The fighters were too fast, too agile. They fired small missiles at close range. The missiles hit the gun barrels directly, destroying them from the inside. Then the fighters were gone, racing away before his crew could react. In seconds, they had disabled his flagship's main weapons, with precision that seemed impossible. These are not explorers, Thraknor said quietly. These are apex predators. On Harmony 7 station, everyone watched the battle on screens. Nobody spoke. Nobody moved. They just stared in shock as one human ship dismantled a Kryloth fleet. Ambassador Dalseth felt something he hadn't felt in his entire life. Fear. Not of the Kryloth, though they were terrifying. Fear of humans, these people who looked soft and weak. These people who the Concordat had patronized and looked down on. These people were the most dangerous thing in the galaxy. They're not even using all their weapons, a military analyst whispered. Look at the power readings. They're holding back. This is them going easy. That thought made Dalzeth's blood cold. This was them being gentle? The battle lasted 27 minutes. 27 minutes for one human ship to destroy or cripple 20 Kryloth vessels. The remaining Kryloth ships tried to retreat. The human fighters pursued, not to destroy, Dalseth realized, but to make sure they kept running. To make sure they spread the word about what happened here. The last Kryloth ship, War Master Thraknor's crippled flagship, sent one final transmission. The words were in the Kryloth language, but the emotion was clear even through the translator. Terror. Pure, absolute terror. Then that ship jumped to hyperspace and was gone. The battle was over. The Indomitable stopped moving. It hung in space, surrounded by debris and wreckage. Its hull showed scars from weapons impacts, but it was intact. Functional. Ready to fight again if needed. The human fighters returned to their ship, landing with the same precision they had shown in combat. Everything the humans did was precise, efficient, professional. Captain Chen's voice came through the station speakers. Harmony 7, this is Indomitable. Threat neutralized. Do you require further assistance? Threat neutralized. She said it like she was reporting completed maintenance work. Like she hadn't just won a battle that should have been impossible. Like this was routine. Commander Zixthor sat in his damaged ship bleeding from a dozen small wounds. His crew was injured. His vessel was barely functioning. And they hadn't even hurt a single Kryloth ship. But one human warship had destroyed an entire fleet. He pulled up the battle data, reviewing what had just happened. The speed, the accuracy, the tactics, every move planned, every shot calculated. This wasn't luck. This wasn't advanced technology alone. This was experience. Deep, hard-earned experience in warfare. Captain Chen had said something during the dinner. Her species had spent most of its existence fighting itself. Thousands of years of war, thousands of years of learning how to kill efficiently. The galaxy had 300 years of peace. Humanity had thousands of years of war. And now Zixthor understood. Which one prepared you better for moments like this? Get me a direct line to Captain Chen, he said. To what was left of his communication system. I need to know how they did this. I need to understand. Because the galaxy needed to understand. The Kryloth were still out there, and if there were more threats like them, the Concordat needed to learn from the only species that knew how to face them. They needed to learn from humanity. The news spread across the galaxy at the speed of light. Actually faster than that. Communications networks lit up with the impossible story. One human warship. 20 Kryloth vessels. Complete victory for the humans. Nobody believed it at first. Then the data arrived. Sensor recordings from a dozen Concordat ships. Video from Harmony 7 station. The evidence was undeniable. Humanity had just announced itself to the galaxy in the most dramatic way possible. On the Concordat Council homeworld, the emergency session lasted 16 hours. Council members watched the battle recording over and over. Some were terrified. Some were excited. All of them knew that everything had changed. We must ally with humanity immediately, one counselor argued. Better to have them as friends than enemies. We should be careful, another countered. They are too violent, too comfortable with warfare. They could destabilize the entire Concordat. Destabilize? A third asked. The Kryloth almost destroyed one of our stations. Our patrol fleet was useless. We need humanity's help, whether we like it or not. The debate continued. Meanwhile, on Harmony 7, repairs were underway. Human engineering teams had come aboard the station to help. They fixed things faster and better than the station's own crew. They were efficient at everything. Ambassador Dalseth watched a human engineer repair a shield generator in half the time a Concordat technician would need. The human hummed a tune while she worked, casual and relaxed. Like the battle yesterday never happened. Like she didn't just survive the most violent combat engagement in 300 years. How do you do it? Dalseth asked her. The engineer looked up, confused. Do what, sir? Stay so calm. After the battle. After all that death. You're just working like it's a normal day, she shrugged. It is a normal day now. The fight's over. We won. People need help. So we help them. Can't change what happened. So we focus on what we can do now. That attitude seemed to sum up humanity. Practical. Forward-thinking. Not dwelling on the violence they had just committed because there was work to be done. Commander. Zixthor got his meeting with Captain Chen. They sat in a quiet conference room on the station. Just the two of them. Zixthor needed answers. How? He asked simply. How did you do it? Chen looked at him for a long moment before answering. Humanity spent most of its existence fighting itself. We had thousands of wars, big ones, small ones, wars that killed millions. We developed weapons, tactics, strategies. We learned how to fight efficiently because if we didn't, we died. But you're peaceful now, Zixthor said. You unified. You stopped fighting each other. We stopped fighting each other, Chen agreed. But we didn't forget how to fight. We just redirected it. Instead of using our skills against each other, we prepared to defend ourselves against whatever we might find in space. The Indomitable isn't even your best ship, Zixthor said. He had learned this from the human crew. You have stronger vessels. More advanced weapons, why? Because the universe is dangerous, Chen said. Maybe we're paranoid. Maybe our history made us too cautious. But when the Kryloth showed up, our paranoia paid off. We were ready. The Concordat wasn't. That hurt because it was true. The Concordat had grown soft, comfortable. They assumed peace would last forever. They were wrong. What do you want from us? Zixthor asked. The council is meeting now. They'll offer alliance, technology exchange, whatever you need. What do humans want? Chen smiled slightly. Information. We want to know what else is out here. What other threats exist? The Kryloth can't be the only dangerous species in the galaxy. We need threat assessments, military capabilities of all known factions, strategic maps. You want intelligence reports, Zixthor said. You want to know what you might have to fight. Knowledge is survival, Chen said. We don't want to conquer anyone. We don't want to rule the galaxy. But we need to know what's out there so we can protect ourselves, and maybe protect others too. The official Concordat delegation arrived the next day. 5 ambassadors and a military advisor. They offered humanity membership in the Concordat, full access to their technology and a formal defense treaty. In exchange, they wanted human military protection and access to human weapons. The human response surprised them again. We'll consider your offer, the human ambassador said. But we need time. We need to report back to Earth and get authorization. We can't make these decisions alone. The Concordat wasn't used to being told to wait. Most species jumped at the chance to join, but humans were different. Independent, they didn't trust easily. Across the galaxy, other species heard the news and reacted in their own ways. The Vrexian Empire immediately sent an embassy to make contact with humanity. The Selkari Collective began upgrading their defense systems, worried that if the Kryloth were active again, other ancient threats might follow. Smaller species sent messages of friendship and requests for protection. Some offered resources in exchange for human defense. Others just wanted to know more about these incredible warriors who had appeared from nowhere. The Kryloth message reached their empire. Warmaster Thraknor's warning spread through their space like wildfire. A new species, powerful, dangerous, do not engage. The Kryloth, who had terrorized the galaxy centuries ago, pulled back their forces and retreated deeper into unknown space. One human ship had changed the strategic balance of the entire galaxy. On Harmony 7, as the Indomitable prepared to depart, Ambassador Dalseth met with Captain Chen one final time. He had to ask the question that troubled him most. Captain Chen, your people are warriors without equal. You've proven that. But I must know, should we fear humanity? Are you conquerors? Will you take what you want by force? Chen was quiet for a moment, choosing her words carefully. Ambassador, humans learned hard lessons through our bloody history. We learned that peace is better than war. We learned that cooperation is better than conquest. But we also learned something else. Peace only exists when good people are strong enough to defend it. She continued. The galaxy has been at peace for 300 years because nobody threatened it. The Kryloth proved that's changing. There are dangers out there. Maybe humanity's role is to face those dangers. We're not conquerors. We're guardians who know how to wage war so others don't have to. And if we refuse your help? Dalseth asked. If we say we don't want warriors in our peaceful galaxy? Then we'll leave, Chen said simply. We won't force ourselves on anyone. But when the next threat comes, and it will come, you'll wish you had someone who knows how to fight. She stood and extended her hand. Dalseth took it. The human grip was firm and warm. The galaxy is changing, Ambassador. The age of easy peace is over. You can either adapt or become victims. We hope you'll choose to adapt. The Indomitable undocked and began moving away from the station. Dalseth watched it go from the observation deck. Around him, Representatives from dozens of species did the same, all of them thinking the same thing. Some with hope, some with fear. A new power had entered the galaxy, a species that understood warfare at a fundamental level, a species that had perfected violence and then chose peace but never forgot the lessons of war. The Concordate Council would debate for weeks about what to do. Some wanted immediate alliance. Others wanted to keep humanity at arm's length. A few paranoid voices suggested humanity itself might become a threat. But Commander Zixthor, watching the human ship disappear into hyperspace, knew the truth. Humanity wasn't the threat. Humanity was the solution to threats the galaxy had forgotten existed. The Kryloth were just the first. There would be others. And when they came, the galaxy would need warriors. Real warriors. Not peacekeepers who played at soldier. Not patrol ships with ceremonial weapons. They would need humanity. The galaxy was about to learn what humans had known for thousands of years. Peace is precious. Worth fighting for. Worth dying for. But peace doesn't maintain itself. Someone has to stand guard. Someone has to be willing to do violence to protect the innocent. Humanity had volunteered for that duty, not because they wanted glory or power, but because they understood better than any other species what happened when good people weren't prepared to fight. The galaxy wondered what just happened when they first encountered a human warship. Now they knew. They had met their protectors, scary, violent, efficient protectors who would stand between civilization and chaos, and the galaxy would never be the same. The message arrived on a Tuesday morning, carried by the fastest ship the Galactic Federation could spare. Ambassador Q-Jin sat in his office on Luna Station, reading the desperate plea that would change everything. 12 alien civilizations had united in fear. The Devourers had come. Q-Jin had heard stories about the Devourers but always thought they were myths. Space legends told around campfires on distant worlds. Now he stared at real data. 3 star systems completely consumed, planets stripped bare, entire populations simply gone. The Federation wanted Earth's help. They needed soldiers. Lots of them, sir. His assistant Minsuk knocked on the door. Colonel Hansol is here to see you. Hansol entered wearing his standard black uniform. No medals, no ribbons. The Special Operations Command didn't believe in decorations. They believed in results. You've read the report? Q-Jin asked. Hansol nodded. The aliens want an army. Can we give them one? The colonel sat down and pulled out a small tablet. The Federation has sent us their battle plans. They want us to send 2 million soldiers to join their front lines. Standard warfare. Big battles. Honor and glory. Q-Jin waited. He knew Hansol well enough to recognize when the man was thinking. The problem is, Ambassador, the aliens don't understand what they're fighting. On the tablet screen, Hansol showed images of devourer creatures. They looked like giant insects mixed with machinery. Organic metal shells covered writhing flesh underneath. But that wasn't what caught Q-Jin's attention. Look at how they move, Hansol said. See the patterns? The creatures moved in perfect coordination, thousands of them acting like a single mind. No confusion, no hesitation. They flowed across battlefields like water. It's a hive, Q-Jin realized. Exactly. The Federation keeps sending armies to fight the drones. But you don't kill a hive by fighting the workers. You kill the queen. Major Sora entered the room carrying a thick folder. She was Hansol's best tactical analyst. If anyone could find a weakness in the Devourers, it would be her. We've been studying the Federation's battle reports, she said. Every engagement follows the same pattern. The aliens form battle lines, the Devourers attack in waves, both sides lose thousands, nothing changes. She opened the folder and spread out star charts across the desk. But look at this. Every Devourer attack is coordinated across multiple planets, sometimes light years apart. That requires communication nodes. Command structures. Captain Jay-Woo arrived as Sora was explaining. He specialized in field operations, the kind of missions that never appeared in official reports. How many nodes? Hansol asked. We estimate 12 major command centers. They call them Queen nodes. Each one controls millions of drones across entire sectors. Q-Jin studied the charts. The Federation had been fighting the Devourers for 8 months. Millions of alien soldiers had died, but they had never even tried to attack the command structure. The aliens don't think like us, Jay-Woo said. They see honor in facing the enemy directly. Big battles, heroic stands. They can't imagine assassination or sabotage. Hansol stood up and walked to the window. Outside, Earth hung in space like a blue marble. Peaceful, beautiful. Nothing like the war zones the Federation described. "What are you thinking, Colonel?" Q-Jin asked. "The aliens want an army. 2 million soldiers to throw at the problem until it goes away. But this isn't that kind of war." He turned back to face the others. "This is pest control." Sora smiled. She had been working with Han Sol long enough to know where his mind was going. "How many would you need?" Q-Jin asked. 12. The ambassador blinked. 12,000? 12 people. The room fell silent. Outside the window, Earth continued its slow rotation. Somewhere in the galaxy, Federation fleets were dying by the thousands, and Earth's response would be 12 soldiers. "You're serious," Q-Jin said. "The Federation doesn't understand what humans are good at." Han Sol explained. "They've never seen our kind of warfare. To them, we're just another species that can hold a gun and follow orders." Jae-woo pulled out his own tablet and showed pictures of human special forces in action, not the kind of images that appeared in recruitment videos. Real operations. Silent killings in the dark. "We've been fighting wars for thousands of years," he said. "Not just battles, wars, total conflicts where the goal isn't honor or glory. The goal is to make the enemy stop existing." Sora pointed to one of the star charts. "If we can eliminate the queen nodes, the entire hive collapses. No more coordination, no more strategic planning. Just millions of confused drones with no one to tell them what to do." "But 12 people?" Q-Jin still couldn't believe it. Han Sol sat back down. "Ambassador, have you ever seen what one human can do when they decide someone needs to die?" Q-Jin had read the classified reports. Earth shadow wars, operations that officially never happened, entire criminal organizations that simply vanished overnight, terrorist cells that disbanded after their leaders started dying in impossible ways. "The aliens are thinking like armies," Han Sol continued. "Massive forces, supply lines, territory control. But this isn't about controlling space. It's about killing specific targets. And humans are very, very good at killing specific targets." Sora gathered up the charts. "We'll need complete operational freedom. No Federation oversight, no coordination with their forces. They won't understand our methods. What do I tell them?" Q-Jin asked. "Tell them Earth accepts their request for military assistance," Han Sol said. "Tell them we're sending our best people. Just don't mention how many," Jae-woo grinned. "Let them think we're sending the army they asked for. They'll figure out the truth later." Q-Jin looked at the 3 officers. These were not the kind of soldiers the Federation expected. No shining armor, no banners, no codes of honor. Just quiet professionals who saw problems and made them disappear. "How long do you need to prepare?" he asked. "We already have the team selected," Han Sol said. "They've been training together for years. We just need to brief them on alien biology and devourer technology. And if it doesn't work?" The 3 officers exchanged glances. It was Sora who answered. "Ambassador, in the last century, humans have never failed to eliminate a target once we decided it needed to die. Why would the devourers be different?" Q-Jin nodded slowly. He would send the message to the Federation. Earth would help. But not in the way anyone expected. The galaxy had asked for an army. They would get something much more dangerous. They would get humanity's killers. The briefing room was darker than most military facilities preferred. But then, most military facilities didn't host meetings like this one. 12 people sat around a black table, and each one represented the kind of warfare that polite society pretended didn't exist. Squad leader Minho reviewed the files one more time. These weren't soldiers in any traditional sense. They were specialists in making problems disappear. "First things first," Colonel Han Sol said, entering the room. "Everything we discuss here is classified beyond any Federation security level. The aliens cannot know what we're actually planning." Sergeant Yujin looked up from her tablet. She had been studying devourer biology for 3 days straight. "Sir, their nervous system is completely different from anything we've encountered. But it's still a nervous system. Meaning? Meaning I can kill it." Yujin specialized in xenobiology, though her official records called it environmental adaptation studies. The truth was simpler. She learned how alien bodies worked so she could stop them from working. Corporal Tae-hyun sat quietly in the corner, cleaning a device that looked like a standard Federation communicator. It wasn't. "Their technology is organic," he said without looking up. "Living machines. Makes them harder to hack but easier to poison." Tae-hyun handled explosives and technological warfare. His personnel file listed him as a communications specialist. What it didn't mention was that he could turn any piece of technology into a weapon. Private Haiwan studied. The star charts spread across the table. She was the team's infiltration expert, though her cover identity claimed she worked in cultural exchange programs. She had spent years learning how to become invisible in alien societies. The Federation's intelligence is terrible, she said. They think the Devourers just attack randomly, but look at these patterns. She pointed to attack routes on the star map. They always hit mining colonies first, then agricultural worlds. They're not just destroying civilizations. They're harvesting resources in a specific order. The other 8 team members listened without speaking. Each had their own specialty. Jinwoo handled close-quarters elimination. Byung-ho specialized in psychological warfare. Su-young worked with biological weapons. Every person in the room could end lives in ways the Federation couldn't imagine. The aliens think warfare is about honor, Han Sol continued. They believe in fair fights, noble battles, protecting the innocent. Very admirable. Also completely useless against an enemy that doesn't share those values. Major Sora entered carrying a new set of intelligence reports. We've intercepted Federation communications. They're expecting Earth to send a full battle fleet. 2 million soldiers, support ships, the complete package. What did Ambassador Q-Jin tell them? Minho asked. That Earth's military response was already underway. He didn't specify numbers. The team members exchanged glances. They had worked together long enough to communicate without words. This was going to be interesting. Sir, Haiwan said, what happens when the Federation realizes we're not an army? They won't realize, Han Sol replied. Not until it's over. By the time they understand what happened, the Devourers will be extinct. On the main screen, images of Devourer attacks played in silent loops. Massive insect-like creatures swarming across alien cities. Federation soldiers falling back in disciplined retreats that accomplished nothing except preserving honor. Their mistake is treating this like a war, Tae-hyun said. Wars have rules. Soldiers, civilians, territory, objectives. This isn't a war. It's an extermination, Yujin nodded. The Devourers don't take prisoners. They don't negotiate. They consume everything and move on. The Federation keeps trying to find military solutions to what is essentially a biological problem, and biological problems require biological solutions, added Su-young. Captain Jae-woo joined the briefing, carrying sealed orders from Earth Command. The Federation has assigned us a liaison officer. Commander Yoonji. She's supposed to coordinate our operations with their military structure. The room fell silent. Coordination was the last thing they needed. How do we handle her? Minho asked. Carefully, Han Sol said. She's a career officer. Believes in chain of command, strategic planning, military doctrine. Everything we're about to ignore. She'll want to know our battle plans, Sora added. Our troop deployments, supply requirements, strategic objectives. Give her what she wants to hear, Minho decided. Tell her we're conducting reconnaissance missions. Advanced scouting. Let her think we're the advance team for the real army. Haiwan smiled. Sir, with respect, we are the real army. The Federation just doesn't know it yet. The briefing continued for 6 hours. They studied Devourer attack patterns, Federation military failures, and the location of every Queen node in the occupied territories. By the end, each team member knew exactly what they needed to do. One more thing, Han Sol said as the meeting concluded. The Federation's military leaders will want to meet with our commanding officer. General Korthak of the Valorian Empire specifically requested a formal introduction. What should I tell him? Minho asked. Tell him you're honored to serve alongside such distinguished warriors. Tell him Earth's military is committed to victory. Tell him whatever he wants to hear. And if he asks about our numbers, tell him operational security prevents you from discussing troop strengths. Make it sound like we have so many soldiers that revealing the numbers would help the enemy. The team began gathering their equipment. Weapons that looked like standard Federation gear but functioned in ways the aliens couldn't imagine. Medical supplies that could heal human injuries or poison alien biology. Communication devices that connected to networks the Federation didn't know existed. Remember, Han Sol said as they prepared to leave. The aliens think courage means standing in the open and fighting fair. They see honor in dying for a cause. We're going to show them what it looks like when someone fights to win. Yujin paused at the door. Sir, what if the Federation objects to our methods? They won't understand our methods until it's too late to object. By then, the Devourers will be gone and everyone will be celebrating victory. And if they figure it out anyway? Han Sol considered the question. Then they'll learn something important about humans. We're not the honorable warriors they think we are. We're something much more dangerous. The team filed out of the briefing room, each carrying equipment and identities that would fool Federation security. To outside observers, they looked like a small advance team. Scouts and specialists preparing the way for Earth's mighty army. The truth was simpler and more terrifying. Earth hadn't sent an army because the problem didn't require an army. It required exterminators, and humans were very good at extermination. The Xerian system looked like hell had opened in space. Commander Unji stood on the bridge of the Federation flagship, watching another failed assault on the Devourer positions. 300 ships had attacked at dawn. 50 had returned. Status report, Admiral Vextar demanded. Enemy forces are holding all strategic positions, the tactical officer replied. Our ground forces have been repelled from the mining colonies. Civilian evacuation is 70% complete. Unji studied the battle displays. 8 months of fighting and the Federation hadn't gained a single meter of territory. The Devourers just kept coming, wave after wave of them, perfectly coordinated, fearless. Admiral, the communications officer announced, the human advance team has arrived. Unji felt a surge of hope. Earth's military reputation was growing throughout the galaxy. They had ended 3 civil wars and stopped 2 pirate fleets just in the past year. If anyone could help turn this disaster around, it would be Earth's soldiers. How many ships? Admiral Vextar asked. 1 transport, sir. Small vessel. The Admiral frowned. Where's their battle fleet? Unknown, sir. The transport captain says they're here to conduct initial reconnaissance. Unji requested permission to meet with the human forces. She expected to find a team of military engineers, maybe some intelligence specialists. What she found was 12 people who looked nothing like the soldiers she had imagined. Squad leader Minho introduced himself politely. He wore standard Federation gear, carried regulation weapons, and spoke with the kind of calm confidence she expected from experienced officers. But something felt wrong. Commander, Minho said, we appreciate the Federation's assistance in our mission. Your mission? Reconnaissance and target assessment. We need to understand Devourer capabilities before our main forces arrive. Unji nodded. That made sense. Earth's military was known for careful planning. What kind of support do you need? None, the answer surprised her. None. We prefer to operate independently. Coordination with Federation forces might compromise operational security. Sergeant Yu Jin stepped forward. She carried what looked like a medical kit, but Unji noticed the specialized equipment inside. Commander, we'll need access to Devourer specimens, dead ones preferably recent. For what purpose? Biological analysis. Understanding enemy physiology helps us develop better weapons. That also made sense. Unji arranged for the human team to receive captured Devourer remains from recent battles. What she didn't know was that Yujin would use those specimens to create weapons the Federation couldn't imagine. Within hours, the humans had disappeared. Unji tried to track them through the Federation's sensor networks. Nothing. She contacted their transport ship. The captain claimed ignorance about his passenger's location. She checked with planetary security. No record of the humans leaving their assigned quarters. Maybe they're conducting covert reconnaissance, her aide suggested. Maybe. But Unji had a strange feeling about the human team. They had asked too few questions, shown too little interest in Federation battle plans. Professional soldiers usually wanted detailed briefings, tactical assessments, strategic overviews. These humans had listened politely and then vanished. The first sign that something was happening came 72 hours later. Admiral, the sensor officer announced, we're detecting massive energy fluctuations in Sector 7. Admiral Vextar studied the readings. Devourer activity? Unknown, sir. The energy signature doesn't match anything in our database. Unji watched the sensor displays. Sector 7 contained one of the larger Devourer hive structures. Federation forces had tried to attack it 6 times and failed every attempt. The thing was too well defended, too heavily fortified. Suddenly, the energy reading spiked and then dropped to 0. What happened? Admiral Vextar demanded. Sir, the hive structure appears to be inactive. Destroyed? No, sir, just stopped working. Unji felt ice in her stomach. Get me a detailed scan of that facility. The results made no sense. The hive structure was intact. No battle damage, no signs of explosion or assault. But every Devourer in the facility was dead. Not killed by weapons. Just dead. How is that possible? Admiral Vextar asked. Nobody had an answer. Private Hay-1 had infiltrated the hive by disguising herself as a maintenance drone. The Devourers used organic technology, living machines that required constant biological upkeep. She had studied their maintenance patterns for days before making her move. Getting inside had been the easy part. The Devourers never expected infiltration because their hive mind could identify any of their own kind. But Hay-1 wasn't one of their kind. She was something they had never encountered, a predator that could think like prey. Once inside, she had mapped the facility's nervous system. Every hive structure was essentially a giant living organism with its own brain. Hay-1 found that brain and introduced it to a toxin that Yujin had designed specifically for devourer biology. The hive didn't die violently. It just stopped thinking. And when the brain stopped working, everything connected to it stopped working too. 18 hours later, another hive went silent. This time, Federation sensors detected a brief explosion deep underground. When reconnaissance teams investigated, they found the facility's power core had overloaded, but the explosion hadn't started from outside. It had begun in the core itself, as if something had made the structure attack itself. Corporal Tae-hyun had spent 3 days studying devourer technology. Organic machines were different from regular computers, but they still followed logical patterns. He had found a way to introduce false commands into their control systems. The hive hadn't exploded. It had been convinced to commit suicide. "This is impossible," Admiral Vextar said, studying the reports. 2 major hive structures don't just fail simultaneously. Yunji was thinking the same thing. But she was also thinking about 12 humans who had disappeared without explanation. "Admiral, request permission to contact Earth Command." "For what purpose?" "I want to ask about the human reconnaissance team. They're conducting their mission. Let them work." But Yunji couldn't shake the feeling that the humans weren't conducting reconnaissance. They were conducting something else entirely. The third hive failure was different. Federation forces had been monitoring a massive devourer facility that controlled attacks across 2 entire planets. The structure had been active for months, coordinating millions of enemy drones in perfectly synchronized assaults. Then it started attacking itself. Sensor readings showed internal conflicts within the hive structure. Devourer forces turned on each other without warning. The facility's own defense systems began targeting its inhabitants. Within hours, the entire complex had torn itself apart from the inside. Sergeant Yujin had perfected her biological warfare. The synthetic virus she had developed didn't just kill devourers. It spread through their shared consciousness, carrying false memories and contradictory orders. The hive mind that made them so effective had become their weakness. "Commander," Admiral Vextar called Yunji to his ready room. "I want those humans found now." "Sir?" 3 hive structures have failed in 1 week. "That's not coincidence. Either the humans know something we don't, or they're causing this somehow." Yunji nodded. She had been thinking the same thing. "What should I tell them when I find them?" "Ask them what they're really doing here." "And ask them where Earth's army is." But Yunji couldn't find the humans. They had become ghosts in the Federation's own territory. Her security teams found no trace of them. Her sensors detected nothing. It was as if 12 people had simply vanished from existence. The only evidence they still existed was the growing number of dead hives scattered across the Zirian system. And Yunji was beginning to understand a terrible truth. Maybe the humans hadn't come to scout for an army. Maybe they were the army. Something had changed in the devourer swarm, and it terrified them. For the first time in their species' existence, the collective consciousness experienced an emotion it had no name for. Fear. The hive mind that connected billions of drones across dozens of star systems was encountering threats it couldn't identify, understand, or stop. Queen Node 7 had gone silent while processing resource allocation for an entire sector. No warnings, no distress signals. The consciousness simply ceased to exist. Queen Node 12 had turned its defense systems inward and destroyed itself. Queen Node 3 had begun broadcasting contradictory orders before falling into complete neural breakdown. The Devourers made a decision that went against millions of years of evolution. Instead of expanding, they would consolidate. Instead of consuming, they would hunt. Squad leader Minho received the intelligence update through encrypted channels. The Devourers were pulling back from their advanced positions, abandoning resource-rich planets they had spent months conquering. Federation forces celebrated this as a strategic victory. They were wrong. They're not retreating, Corporal Taehyun said, studying the tactical displays. They're focusing all their attention on finding us. The team had gathered in an abandoned mining facility on Zerion 4. The planet had been evacuated months ago, leaving behind empty cities and industrial complexes that provided perfect hiding spots for human operations. How many hives have we eliminated? Private Haewon asked. 6 major facilities, Minho replied. But that's not the important number. The important number is how many command nodes we've disrupted. Sergeant Yujin looked up from her biological analysis equipment. She had been studying devourer communication patterns, learning how their collective consciousness functioned. Every hive we destroy sends shockwaves through their entire network. They're not just losing facilities. They're losing pieces of their mind. Good, said Specialist Dongwoo. He had been operating deep undercover, posing as a Federation maintenance worker to gain access to captured devourer technology. Maybe if we hurt them enough, they'll make mistakes. The mistake came 3 days later. Corporal Taehyun was conducting a deep strike mission against a bioprocessing facility that served 12 different hive structures. The target was heavily defended, surrounded by layers of organic sensors and automated defense systems. Getting inside would require perfect timing and exceptional luck. Taehyun had both. He infiltrated the facility during a shift change in the drone population. The devourers rotated their workers every 8 hours, moving thousands of creatures in and out of the complex. During the transition, their security systems focused on organizing the massive population movement, instead of watching for external threats. The bioprocessing facility functioned like a giant digestive system. Raw materials from conquered planets were broken down into nutrients that fed the entire hive network. Taehyun planted his devices in the facility's control center, where organic computers managed the chemical processes that kept millions of devourers alive. But the devourers had been studying human tactics. They had learned to recognize the energy signatures of human technology. Taehyun's presence was detected just as he finished placing his final device. The facility's security systems activated immediately. Blast doors sealed every exit. Defense drones swarmed toward his location. Toxic gases flooded the corridors. Within minutes, Taehyun was completely surrounded with no possibility of escape. He activated his communication device and contacted Minho. Squad leader, the mission is complete, but my position is compromised. Extraction options? None. They've got me locked down tight. Minho closed his eyes. He had been leading special operations for 15 years and lost only 3 people. Each death had taught him something important about the cost of their kind of warfare. Orders, sir? Taehyun asked. Complete the mission. Taehyun understood. The devices he had planted could create a cascade failure that would destroy not just this facility, but trigger chain reactions across the entire network of connected hive structures, but only if he manually activated them. And manual activation meant staying inside a facility that was about to become the center of a biological explosion. Understood, sir. It's been an honor. Taehyun initiated the cascade sequence and then settled back to wait. The devourers were trying to break through the reinforced door to his location, but they wouldn't make it in time. The bioprocessing facility began eating itself from the inside, converting its own structure into raw energy that spread through the network connections to other hives. The explosion, when it came, was visible from orbit. But more importantly, it eliminated an entire subspecies of devourer, warrior forms that had been causing problems for Federation forces. Across 4 different planets, Private Haewon watched the tactical displays as devourer positions collapsed throughout the sector. Taehyun's sacrifice had accomplished something no Federation army could have achieved. He had turned the enemy's greatest strength against them. The devourers are adapting, she reported to Minho. They've started studying our methods. That's why they detected Taehyun. Then we adapt faster, Minho replied. Haewon's next mission proved the point. Instead of infiltrating another hive facility, she focused on the devourers' attempts to understand human tactics. She fed them false information, leaving fake clues about human technology, and forged evidence of Federation battle plans. The devourers' collective intelligence analyzed the false data and reached incorrect conclusions. They began expecting human forces to attack from directions that no human would ever choose. They deployed defensive measures against weapons that didn't exist. They prepared for battles that would never happen. While the hive mind focused on these phantom threats, Wan led an entire swarm fleet into a trap. She had studied stellar phenomena in the Zirion system and identified a gravitational anomaly that could tear apart organic spacecraft. All she had to do was convince the Devourers that a major human military target was hidden in that area. The false intelligence worked perfectly. A massive Devourer fleet consisting of over 2,000 bioships moved to investigate what they believed was Earth's secret military base. They found instead a stellar phenomenon that shredded their organic hulls and scattered their remains across light years of space. Sergeant Yujin had been perfecting her biological warfare, while the others conducted their missions. The synthetic virus she had developed was ready for large-scale deployment. Unlike conventional weapons, it didn't destroy tissue. Instead, it modified the Devourers' nervous systems, introducing errors into their collective consciousness. The weapon spread through the hive network like a disease, but its symptoms were confusion rather than death. Infected Devourers began receiving contradictory orders from their command structures. Some were told to attack Federation positions that didn't exist. Others were ordered to defend facilities that had already been destroyed. The coordination that made them so dangerous began breaking down as false information poisoned their shared awareness. Yujin deployed the virus through captured Devourer communication nodes, disguising her biological weapon as routine network traffic. The hive mind never realized it was being infected until the damage was irreversible. Federation forces across the Zirion system reported the same phenomenon. Devourer attacks became disorganized. Enemy forces began fighting each other. Entire swarms would suddenly change direction in the middle of battles, as if they had forgotten what they were supposed to be doing. Admiral Vextar called an emergency conference with his senior officers. I want to know what's happening to the enemy. 6 weeks ago, they were coordinated and unstoppable. Now they're acting like they've lost their minds. Commander Yunji had been trying to track the human reconnaissance team for days without success. Admiral, I think we need to consider the possibility that Earth's forces are responsible for these changes. How? We haven't seen any major human military operations. Maybe we're not seeing their operations because they're not the kind of operations we recognize. Admiral Vextar studied the tactical displays. The Devourer positions showed increasing signs of internal conflict and systemic breakdown. Whatever was happening to them, it was spreading through their entire network. Contact Earth Command, he ordered. I want to speak with whoever is commanding their forces in this system. But when Unji tried to contact Earth, she discovered something that changed everything. According to Earth Command's records, no human military forces had been deployed to the Zirion system. The reconnaissance team she had met was operating under classified orders that even Earth's senior commanders knew nothing about. She realized then that the 12 humans weren't scouts, preparing the way for an army. They were the army, and they were winning a war that the Federation didn't even understand was being fought. The Devourer hive mind was dying, and it didn't understand why. Across 17 star systems, the collective consciousness that had consumed entire civilizations was experiencing systematic failure. Not the sudden death of battle, but the slow dissolution of identity itself. Pieces of the network were going dark, carrying with them millions of years of accumulated knowledge and experience. Specialist Dongwu had spent 4 weeks deep inside a prime hive structure, the largest Devourer facility ever discovered. He posed as a captured Federation technician, forced to maintain alien equipment under Devourer supervision. The disguise was perfect because it was partially true. Dongwu had been captured, but not by accident. Getting taken prisoner had been the only way to reach the core consciousness chambers deep inside the prime hive. The Devourers brought their captives to the facility's center, where organic computers processed the knowledge extracted from conquered species. Dongwu had allowed himself to be captured so he could access those computers from the inside. For weeks he studied the patterns of the collective consciousness. The Devourer's shared awareness operated like a massive biological internet, connecting every drone to every other drone through quantum-entangled neural networks. It was their greatest evolutionary advantage. It would also be their extinction. Dongwu planted his final weapon in the heart of the network, not an explosive device or a toxin, but something far more dangerous. A cognitive virus designed to propagate through the quantum connections that held the collective consciousness together. The virus didn't attack the Devourers' bodies. It attacked their ability to think as a unified entity. Each infected node began broadcasting false information to other nodes. Navigation data became corrupted. Memory files contained impossible contradictions. The shared awareness that had made them unstoppable became a highway for their own destruction. The virus spread at the speed of thought through quantum connections. Within hours, every devourer facility in the galaxy was infected. Within days, the collective consciousness began fragmenting into millions of isolated minds that couldn't remember how to coordinate with each other. Commander Yunji stood on the bridge of the Federation flagship, watching impossible displays on her tactical screens. Devourer forces throughout the Xerian system were shutting down. Not destroyed, not retreating, just stopping. Status report, Admiral Vextar demanded. Sir, enemy activity has decreased by 93% across all monitored sectors. Remaining Devourer forces appear to be operating without coordination. What's causing it? Yunji had been asking herself the same question for weeks. The Devourers hadn't been defeated by Federation military forces. They had been systematically dismantled by an enemy they couldn't see, couldn't understand, and couldn't fight. Admiral, she said carefully, I believe the human reconnaissance team is responsible. 12 people? Sir, I don't think they were a reconnaissance team. Admiral Vextar turned to face her. Explain. Earth never sent an army to help us. They sent something else. Something we didn't recognize because we've never seen warfare conducted this way. On the tactical displays, another Devourer facility went silent. The third one that day, Yunji had stopped trying to understand how it was happening. She was beginning to understand why. The humans don't fight like we do, she continued. We think about territory, strategic positions, supply lines. They think about eliminating specific targets. The Devourers were never their enemy. The hive mind was. Operative Subin completed her final preparations in the abandoned Federation research station orbiting Xerion Prime. She had been working alone for 2 weeks, assembling technology that existed in theoretical papers but had never been built. Until now, the device she constructed looked like a standard quantum communication array. But its function was far more sophisticated. It could weaponize the quantum entanglement that the Devourers used for faster-than-light communication, turning their own network connections into delivery systems for targeted neural disruption. Subin activated the device and watched as quantum signals propagated through Devourer communication channels. Every connected consciousness experienced the same phenomenon simultaneously. Their neural networks stopped functioning in an organized manner. The collective awareness that had defined their species for millions of years simply ended. The Devourers didn't die. They became something they had never been before. Individuals. Separate minds cut off from the shared consciousness that had guided their every action. Without the hive mind to tell them what to do, they simply stopped doing anything. Squad leader Minho received confirmation signals from the surviving team members. Dongwu had successfully deployed the cognitive virus. Subin had severed the quantum connections that held the collective consciousness together. The remaining operatives had eliminated enough command nodes to ensure that any attempt to rebuild the hive mind would fail. Mission complete. He reported to Colonel Han Sol through encrypted channels. Confirmed. All Devourer network activity has ceased throughout the galaxy. Minho looked around the empty mining facility that had served as their base of operations. 10 people had started this mission. Taehyun had died destroying the bioprocessing facility. Dongwu had sacrificed himself to place the cognitive virus in the prime hive. 8 humans had eliminated a threat that had stymied the combined military forces of 12 alien civilizations. What are our extraction orders? Private Haewon asked. We wait, Minho replied. The Federation will want to understand what happened. They'll have questions. What do we tell them? Nothing. Our mission never officially existed. Commander Yunji received the report from her reconnaissance teams 3 days later. The Prime Hive facility had suffered complete neural breakdown. Every Devourer inside was dead, but not from weapons or explosives. They had simply stopped living when their connection to the collective consciousness was severed. Deep inside the facility, her teams found the remains of Specialist Dongwu. He had been killed by security systems while trying to access the Hive's central computer core, but his mission had succeeded. Evidence showed that he had introduced some kind of virus into the Devourer network. One person did this? Admiral Vextar asked, studying the report. Yes, sir. But he wasn't working alone. We found similar evidence at sites throughout the system. The humans conducted a coordinated campaign against Devourer command structures. How many humans? Based on our investigation, no more than 12. Admiral Vextar sat down heavily. 12 humans had accomplished what millions of Federation soldiers could not. They had eliminated an existential threat to galactic civilization using methods that no alien military would have considered. Where are they now? Unknown, sir. They seem to have vanished, but the humans hadn't vanished. They were waiting in the mining facility for the Federation to process what had happened. Minho knew that Admiral Vextar would eventually demand explanations. The aliens would want to understand how 12 people had succeeded where their armies had failed. The truth would change everything. The Federation believed in honorable warfare, noble battles protecting the innocent through superior firepower. They would learn that humans had evolved beyond such concepts. When faced with an existential threat, humans didn't send armies, they sent killers. Sir, Haiwan said, monitoring Federation communications. They're calling it a miracle. Admiral Vextar is reporting to the Federation Council that unknown factors caused the Devourer collective consciousness to collapse. Let them think it was a miracle, Minho replied. It's simpler than the truth. But Yunji was beginning to understand the truth. The humans hadn't come to fight alongside Federation forces. They had come to solve a problem that the Federation couldn't solve using the Federation's methods, and they had succeeded completely. The galaxy was safe from the Devourers. But Commander Yunji realized that the galaxy might have something new to worry about. A species that could eliminate existential threats with surgical precision. A species that fought wars the way others conducted assassinations. Earth had sent killers to save the galaxy. The question that kept Yunji awake at night was simple. What happened when the killers decided they didn't need saving anymore?